04, the last time there were back-to-back champs in the NFC East, which is wild, by the way. It's crazy. Will the Eagles break that trend? And if not, why? The only reason the Eagles would not win back-to-back NFC East titles, well, the first one is a non-factor. It's injuries, right? If enough people blow out their legs, then sure,
True.
you're not going to win it, and that's you can't do anything about that.
Hopefully not.
The only other way is if you have an NFC East team dramatically overperforming. For instance, the Giants. The Giants roster, if you got a Jalen Hurts-esque season out of Daniel Jones, would be very good. Now, that's a mega jump, but we forget that Jalen Hurts had a pretty big jump from 2 years ago to this past season, right? So we're trying to figure out how the Eagles lose this division. You would need a mega jump from Daniel Jones that would be just like, awe-inspiring. And even then, I would still take the Eagles roster. Or there's a regression somewhere. I don't know. It's hard to argue against the Eagles winning the NFC East. It's really hard.
Yeah. I think you'd go buy a lottery ticket before I'd say that Daniel Jones is going to take that.
I would too.
That next
I'm just
jump.
trying to explain
but
it.
no, I get it. Yeah, just go with the theoretical argument of how that works. I think Dallas is, as much as I hate to say it, I think Dallas is the biggest competition. The only way that we don't repeat is if Dallas has some sort of year, and hey, they have a great season, they win some games, and it's still neck and neck. But I don't think that there's any way the team runs away with it. Like Philly, it's up for grabs. But it would just surprise me if at the end of the year, I think it surprised most of us if we're not saying, "Yep, there we go, finally broke the streak, we won the division again," and it actually happens that way. Because I mean, I guess we could talk about Washington, but like, is that really, are they going to do something? They've done crazy things in years past, right? Whenever it's like, oh, they're not even going to do anything at all, and all of a sudden they make playoffs and they do better. But like, this is not really the season. There were moves that they could be made, and they didn't make those. And now it's what Jacoby Brissett is pushing Sam Howell. Who knows who the quarterback is going to be? I like Brissett, but he's not your long-term starter. He's a great backup, but there's some good pieces on Washington. But again, I think if we're going back to, I think it's Dallas. I really don't see the Giants. I don't see the Commanders being those teams that are actually in your way.
Yeah, I mean, Howell would have to be otherworldly, and it's so hard to do. I mean, come on, there isn't a quarterback in NFL history rookie year where you're that great, besides RG3 and, of course, what's his face, Russell Wilson, right? Those are the few recent examples of rookies that really balled out. And RG3 won one playoff game, and that was it. So what are you going to do? We'll look at the NFC conference in a second. Let's get to some super chats. Who got more yards, TD, Smith, or Brown? With Alfonso, 2 more entries into our ticket giveaway. Got you locked in there. This is up in the air. Smith had 7. I feel like it could be more. This is such a hard question to answer. Who knows? We don't know. No one knows the answer to this question. I think the sexy pick is Smith, sure, but okay. I mean, it can go either way.
Yeah, completely. I mean, my prediction, it'll be dead wrong, I guarantee, because I say this now. But I'll say yards, it's going to be DeVonta, but TDs, it'll be AJ. I don't know. I just think AJ's stature, like the way that he can body other cornerbacks and win possession balls. Not that DeVonta can't win a lot of jump balls, and he's ridiculous, obviously. But I just think touchdowns, probably a little bit of the edge to AJ. But I do think this year, I mean, I think DeVonta is. I don't know really that you could say he takes another step because of how good he was last season, but whatever that next step is, I think that he does it. And with his route running and separation, I think that he'll have more yards. So that's what I go with.
I totally agree. I think we're about to see the NFL version of AJ Brown's final year at Alabama, or sorry, DeVonta Smith's final year at Alabama. Now that doesn't mean he's going to put up Heisman Trophy 22 touchdowns, but
300 yards in the first half.
Right? Come on. It doesn't happen in the NFL. But what I'm saying is, an NFL version of that is like 12 touchdowns, 1,500 yards, and he's unguardable. That's the comparison. I feel like that is coming, and I feel like it's going to be impossible to stop it because A.J. Brown lurks on the other side. And as soon as you switch, DeVonta Smith has a game. I was watching DeVonta Smith footage because I did a short on DeVonta Smith earlier this week, and you go back, there are games where he has low catch numbers, and then there are games where he has high catch numbers. And the only caveat there is if it's a low catch game for Smitty, it's a high catch game for A.J. Brown, and vice versa. Now, they have games when both of them are playing well, but you basically pick your poison. So let's say Smith starts to ball out. And then there's a game where everyone goes, okay, stop DeVonta Smith. Then it's just an A.J. Brown Steeler game, or it's just an A.J. Brown Titan game from last year. And then they'll go back to A.J. Brown, and then DeVonta Smith will have a massive game. It's hard to do, man. It's hard to cover. There are only a few teams that are like this in the league, and everyone points to the Bengals because they have really good number twos. But I think A.J. Brown, or I think DeVonta Smith is way better than T. Higgins. I think he's way better than Tyler Boyd. I think that if you were asking corners, would you rather play T. Higgins or DeVonta Smith? They'd take Higgins and Boyd 24/7 because Smitty's route running is what's so scary because you just can't stop him and he gets open so much.
I agree. Yeah. I think that the danger that he presents, like you mentioned there, he helped win my fantasy league. So, there's extra reason. I don't think that I'm going to be able to get him in like the 6th or 7th round like I did last year. But yeah, we need to make that happen though. The fantasy draft that we were talking about that. I know we've been talking offline, but I think that's in the works.
In a second. One second. Jose Gonzalez, 5 entries in here. He says, I brought a Cox jersey. So when I love Cox. Fantastic. I wish Chris Long would line up next to him. Okay, well, you can look up that picture because it exists somewhere. So congrats on your Fletcher Cox jersey, Jose. Congrats. Okay.
Got you down.
Moving on. Okay, quickly here. Josh and I have talked about how we are going to do a multiple fantasy football leagues for the channel. We don't know exactly how we're going to have people enter. We're going to try to do 4-ish fantasy leagues of 12 plus people per league, subscribers of our channels that Josh and I are both in, with a pot at the end and a lot of fun there. So stay tuned. We have nothing to announce tonight, but that is coming because we want to be able to interact with you guys, and fantasy football would be a really, really fun way to do it. So we don't know how we're going to pick, because there's obviously, tens of thousands of subscribers on both these channels combined. We don't know how we're going to pick the 48, for instance, or the 36 people to be in these 3 or 4 leagues, but we're going to figure it out. Josh and I will both be in them. Our only caveat is people got to be active in these things, right? You got to be every week. I don't want to see bench players, who should be starting on the bench. I hate that. That is like an instant ban from the league, but
exactly,
once they're in there. So
when people get free wins, because how many of us have seen that one guy who
every year.
One week before he doesn't submit a lineup, he's got 4 or 5 bye weeks, and then the next week you're playing him, so you're like, okay, you know what? At least I'm going to get a win, and all of a sudden he submits his lineup. You got to be kidding me. So we at least if you're going to play, that'll be fun.
I totally agree. Ohana says, which players do you guys think we need to temper our expectations on heading into this season? I think Edmonds will be extremely underwhelming by week 3. Sidney and Brown and Reed will start. Could be. I feel pretty good about Terrell Edmonds. A player to temper expectations?
Good question.
I'm not convinced Rashad Penny's going to stay healthy. I don't think that we have this YouTube highlight reel of Rashad Penny in our minds that we're going to get. And it's like, that's the Rashad Penny. I don't think we're getting that Rashad Penny. I'm not convinced on that yet. And although my expectations aren't really high for him, there are a lot of people in my comment section who are saying he's the best back. Wait till he breaks out. We paid him nothing, man. I mean, you got to tell me
that's true.
We paid him pennies on the dollar, and there's a lot of injuries to that lower body. It feels like a DeMarco Murray situation where the expectation will be higher than the outcome, but he's not on the Murray level because he didn't make a gajillion dollars, at his previous job with the Seahawks. Other than him, Josh, I mean, who else? I don't know.
It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, the safety position seems to be one of those easy ones that you could say, or the one that comes to mind a little bit quicker. But we talked about linebacker, Nicholas Morrow. If he's going to be a starter, we don't know. But the question is, can he keep up the level of play from last season? I mean, it was really his first full season. Got the reps, led the team in tackles, so he played pretty well. But it's like, okay, we still need him to prove it. So maybe we temper expectations with Morrow, perhaps.
Yeah.
And if you want a wild card, and this is going out there, and I'm not saying that I'm predicting this to happen, but I think it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Is Darius Slay. Like, he's getting up there in age.
Okay,
and, early in the season, last year, he was great. There was a little bit of a drop off, not crazy, but towards the end of last season, you could argue. Now, was it he was not getting as many targets because quarterbacks know they shouldn't throw it his way? Maybe, but there also could be something to that. So, I'll be curious. Anytime a guy starts getting up there in age, you always start looking that way to say, well, there's always a decline. And just question is, when will it happen? So I don't know, maybe temper the expectations. That'd be the wild card, the one that you don't really think of as much, perhaps.
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, you can't argue against it, right? I mean, Fletcher Cox is not the player. that he once was, but he still plays at a good enough level. The question is he gets to rotate, whereas Slay doesn't. So that's why Slay can be more of a problem, which you said. But I think he'll be fine.